In the hallowed halls of the UK Parliament, where debates shape the destiny of a nation, a storm was brewing that few could have foreseen. The chamber was alive with murmurs and whispers, each more charged than the last, as an MP rose to the floor. A question, sharp as a blade, was hurled across the room, directed at none other than Keir Starmer. The leader of the opposition, a man known for his measured demeanour and razor-sharp wit, was suddenly at the centre of a controversy that promised to ripple far beyond Westminster. All eyes were fixed on him, each gaze heavy with anticipation, curiosity, or perhaps even judgment. What followed was a revelation that sent shockwaves not just through the political elite but also across the country, leaving citizens questioning the integrity of the very people they elected to serve. As details unfolded, the crux of the issue became clear. Questions were raised about Starmer's expenses, an area of parliamentary life already tarnished by scandals past. The very mention of expenses conjured up memories of prior controversies, extravagant claims for moat cleaning, duck houses, and questionable travel reimbursements. But this was different. This wasn't about eccentric luxuries or frivolous indulgences. It was about the leader of the opposition, a figure who had positioned himself as a champion of accountability and transparency. The allegations, if true, threatened to undercut his credibility at a time when public trust in politicians was already perilously low. Starmer's response to the allegations was as poised as it was calculated. With a calm but firm tone, he dismissed the claims as a misrepresentation of the facts, a smear campaign orchestrated by those desperate to undermine his leadership. He insisted that his expenses were not only within the rules but also entirely justifiable. Yet, the weight of public scrutiny is rarely eased by mere denials, no matter how eloquent. Critics pounced, dissecting his every word, scrutinizing his every move. They demanded details, evidence, explanations that went beyond the surface. And as the pressure mounted, so too did the intensity of the debate. In the days that followed, the story evolved in ways no one could have predicted. Investigative journalists delved into the records, poring over receipts, invoices, and expense claims with meticulous care. What they found was a mixed bag, some claims that seemed perfectly reasonable and others that raised eyebrows. A significant sum spent on travel during a period of restricted movement drew particular attention. While Starmer's team explained it away as necessary for his role, detractors saw it as an example of the hypocrisy they had long suspected. The narrative was no longer just about financial propriety, it was about integrity, trust, and the ever-present question of whether those in power played by the same rules as everyone else. Meanwhile, Starmer's supporters rallied around him, painting the accusations as a distraction from the real issues facing the nation. They argued that the focus on his expenses was a ploy to shift attention away from the government's failings, a tactic designed to discredit a leader who posed a genuine threat to the status quo. Social media became a battleground, with hashtags trending on both sides of the divide. Memes, videos, and opinion pieces flooded the digital space, each attempting to sway public opinion. The court of public opinion, after all, often proves more decisive than any official investigation. As Parliament reconvened to address the matter, the atmosphere was electric. The opposition benches bristled with indignation, while the government side appeared eager to exploit the situation to its fullest. The exchange that ensued was nothing short of theatrical. Accusations flew like arrows, each more pointed than the last. Starmer stood his ground, delivering a defense that was as impassioned as it was articulate. He spoke of his commitment to public service, his adherence to the rules, and the broader principles at stake. But for every point he made, there was a rebuttal waiting to be delivered, often accompanied by jeers and murmurs from across the aisle. In the weeks that followed, the story refused to fade from the headlines. New revelations emerged, some corroborating Starmer's defense and others complicating it further. Each twist and turn added layers to the narrative, turning it into a saga that captivated and polarized in equal measure. Polls showed a dip in Starmer's approval ratings, though not a catastrophic one. Many saw the controversy as a test of his resilience, a trial by fire that would either strengthen his leadership or expose its vulnerabilities. Beyond the immediate implications for Starmer and his party, the episode reignited a broader conversation about the culture of expenses in Parliament. It underscored the need for greater transparency and accountability, not just in how funds are allocated but in how they are perceived by the public. It also highlighted the power of perception in politics, the way a single issue can overshadow even the most significant achievements. For Starmer, the road ahead was clear but arduous. He would need to navigate the fallout with skill and determination, proving not just his innocence but also his ability to lead in the face of adversity. And so, the story of Keir Starmer's expenses became more than just a political controversy. It became a lens through which the nation examined its leaders, its institutions, and, ultimately, itself. Whether it would serve as a cautionary tale or a rallying cry for change remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: the impact of this moment would be felt for a long time to come, shaping the narrative of British politics in ways both profound and unexpected. In the grand halls of Westminster, where the whispers of political maneuvers echo through the corridors, an extraordinary spectacle was unfolding. Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition and a figure synonymous with sharp rhetoric and keen legal insight, found himself at the heart of a parliamentary storm. The chamber, often filled with calculated debates and the occasional uproar, had taken on an electric atmosphere as allegations surrounding Starmer's expenses began to surface. With the tension thick enough to cut with a knife, all eyes were fixed on the unfolding drama, promising revelations that could shake the foundations of political trust. As the details of the accusations were laid bare, the nation watched, captivated and incredulous. Claims about improper allocation of public funds, questionable expense filings, and an opaque trail of financial transactions painted a picture that seemed to contrast sharply with Starmer's image as a principled leader. The opposition benches bristled with discomfort, while members of the ruling party seized the moment, their accusations coming with a mix of calculated precision and theatrical flair. For many, this wasn't just about one man's expenses. It was a reflection of the integrity of a system that was meant to hold its leaders accountable. The revelations were startling. Detailed records revealed payments that, at best, raised eyebrows and, at worst, invited outright condemnation. Questions swirled around everything from travel expenditures to office renovations. Was this a case of clerical oversight, or did it point to a deeper issue of entitlement? The accusations were met with fervent denials from Starmer's camp, who insisted on a full and fair investigation to clear his name. Yet, the damage to his reputation seemed inevitable, as public opinion began to sway under the weight of relentless media scrutiny. As the debate raged on, Starmer took to the dispatch box to defend himself. His usual calm demeanor was under strain, and his voice carried a mix of defiance and vulnerability. He addressed each claim with meticulous detail, attempting to dismantle the narrative piece by piece. Yet, the opposition's attacks were relentless. They demanded transparency, citing the public's right to know how their money was being spent. The back-and-forth exchanges were nothing short of gladiatorial, with each side fighting not just for victory but for the moral high ground. Outside the halls of Parliament, the public response was equally charged. Social media platforms lit up with debates, memes, and commentary. Some rallied behind Starmer, believing in his integrity and dismissing the allegations as a political witch hunt. Others were less forgiving, calling for his resignation and stricter regulations on parliamentary expenses. The discourse extended beyond politics, touching on broader issues of privilege, accountability, and trust in public institutions. The story wasn't just about Starmer anymore. It had become a lightning rod for the nation's frustrations and aspirations. The media, ever hungry for a sensational story, pounced on the unfolding events with unrestrained zeal. Headlines screamed accusations and counter-arguments, while investigative journalists dug deeper, uncovering more details that added fuel to the fire. The narrative evolved rapidly, with new twists and turns keeping the story alive. It wasn't just a scandal, it was a saga that held the nation in its grip, sparking conversations from dinner tables to boardrooms. Amid the chaos, questions arose about the mechanisms of oversight within Parliament. How had these expenses been approved in the first place? Were there gaps in the system that allowed for such discrepancies? These inquiries weren't just about addressing the immediate scandal but about preventing future ones. Committees were formed, investigations were launched, and recommendations for reform began to take shape. Yet, for many, these measures felt like too little, too late. The damage to public trust had already been done, and repairing it would require more than bureaucratic adjustments. As the weeks turned into months, the intensity of the scandal began to ebb, but its impact lingered. Starmer's political rivals capitalized on the controversy, weaving it into their broader critique of his leadership. Meanwhile, his supporters rallied to rebuild his image, emphasizing his track record and vision for the country. The episode became a defining moment in his career, a test of resilience and an opportunity to demonstrate his capacity to lead through adversity. Whether it would strengthen or weaken him remained to be seen, but it undoubtedly left an indelible mark on the political landscape. The scandal also sparked a broader reflection on the relationship between leaders and the public. At its core, the outrage wasn't just about money, it was about trust. The public's faith in their leaders is built on the expectation of integrity and accountability. When that trust is broken, it reverberates far beyond the individual at the center of the controversy. It shakes the foundations of democracy itself, reminding everyone of the fragile balance that sustains it. In the end, the story of Keir Starmer's expenses wasn't just a tale of political intrigue. It was a mirror held up to the nation, reflecting its values, frustrations, and hopes. It served as a reminder of the importance of vigilance, transparency, and the continuous effort to uphold the principles that underpin democracy. As the dust settled, the question remained: would this be a moment of reckoning that led to meaningful change, or just another chapter in the endless saga of political drama? Only time would tell.